Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us at our new recording studio for Eyewear Artwalk. I am joined here with David Green, all the way from South Africa. How are you today, David?
So happy to be here on the other side of the planet. It's been a beautiful day here. It's 6 p.m. in the evening, and I believe it's about 12 o'clock over there. So it's great to have this global intercontinental connect.
Absolutely. And I also have with me Trevor Williams, our beloved CMO and the visionary behind what the beautiful wonders you're going to experience at Eyewear Artwalk. How are you, Trevor?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Apologies, I'm not on camera, but I'm on the West Coast, so it's a little earlier for me, and the hair just quite isn't done yet.
That's okay. That's okay. We accept all kinds here. So we're going to have some fun today. And just to give you an idea of how these sessions are going to work, we're doing one today at 12. We'll be doing another one today at 3 p.m. where we'll walk through the Kazoku Lunettes experience. And the bottom line is when you come to Eyewear Artwalk, there's going to be a lot of tools that you can use to have a complete experience. There's going to be digital tools, virtual tools, and physical tools. These next couple of sessions, we're going to be really diving in to the digital and virtual tools. But you will find over time that we'll be showing you a little bit more about how you can use the digital in relationship with the physical. Today, we're going to be focusing on the digital and virtual experience only, because David is only going to be joining us in the Metaverse in Eyewear Artwalk for Denver. And David is a seasoned pro, which we'll get into in a moment. We'll be learning a little bit about David's journey. But David, first of all, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about you and your history in the industry.
Yes. Our business has been going for 17 years now, and we're delighted to be represented in 44 countries. I'm actually based in Cape Town, South Africa, and Cape Town, South Africa has a beautiful harmony between city and nature. And it's very important to have a clear purpose in your business life. So my purpose in life is to bring nature to the cities of the world. Things like this. So I actually get real nature and embed it into each frame. So the whole concept is to have a sustainable message of complete authenticity by actually bringing nature itself into my product. So when people wear a David Green frame, they can say they feel good about the world, and it's a fantastic signal to send out.
Well, and David, I've had you speak through my vision show going back to the beginning of the pandemic, even before. I think you were a part of our event before the pandemic. You were
Absolutely
participating in my vision show before the pandemic. And you remember when the pandemic happened, we had so many more opticians and optometrists participating. A lot of people don't know what my vision show is and what it was like. But being there from the beginning, like you were, and having the insight that you had from the beginning of being a global traveler and understanding the challenges of global travel, and then obviously the shutdown during the pandemic. Tell us a little bit about what your journey has been like in this virtual sense. I mean, almost 4 years that you've been with my vision show.
I think it's, there's a couple of things. Firstly, from a timeline perspective, you're absolutely right. We actually started this journey actually a bit before COVID. And I think COVID certainly was a huge wake-up call for a lot of businesses worldwide. And, for me, things like our virtual try-on, that is enhancing the consumer experience, which is also important. And especially if you have the challenges like we had during the COVID period, how does one actually communicate and connect with people? I think one wants to actually envisage the product themselves in a realistic way on someone's face and without actually being there. So this is basically what something like a virtual try-on does for you. And of course, accessibility. Here we are sitting at other ends of the planet. virtual try-ons and technology eliminate geographical barriers, and they let customers around the world experience our frames in a global way. And of course, there's a common thread to everything we do, and there is, of course, a sustainability link. In our business, in the eyewear business, there is a lot of shipping and returns and stuff going back and forth. And I do believe that digital tools like the virtual try-on are having a role in sustainability. And it's growing very quickly.
I really love that answer. You answered a lot of my questions that I had in my head. So let's kind of roll back a little bit just to help the audience follow along. So I know, disclosure, my company helped to produce the virtual try-on that David Green is using. Not me personally. I actually work with somebody, Planet VA, who has been developing virtual try-on technology for over 20 years. And when David and I met through this virtual world, one of the things that he was looking for was a virtual try-on. And we were able to play matchmaker and connect David to the ultimate solution, which you're still using to this day. But back then, David, there was a lot of confusions about how to compare one virtual try-on technology to another, how to implement it, make it accessible to both your clients, which are opticians and optometrists, as well as their clients, which are the patients at large. And in that journey, I know, because I've kind of been there with you, you've discovered this connectivity of how the technology can connect all the players in the supply chain, even though you typically would never interact directly with the consumer. But now you can provide tools to support them, even if you never connect with them. So that's a little bit further down the line in this conversation. I want to get there, but just the basics of, you were a visionary. No one had a virtual try-on on their website when you started looking for it. It was brand new. You were insightful enough to know, and full disclosure, you're not a techie. Let's just make that clear for everybody that's listening. This tech, you would not define yourself as a techie. Is that right?
Correct. And it can be very intimidating. And I was very relieved at actually how easy it is. I mean, basically, we just send two photographs, one front angle, kind of like a front and a side, and the tech literally does everything else. There's some products that involve like 600 photographs and stuff like that. There's kind of none of this in the tool that we use. It's actually incredibly simple to use for non-techies like me.
And you bring up an excellent point. So Planet VA is a designer of independent technology, and their customer is independence. A lot of these other technologies, they work with larger brands that have these huge budgets where they can send thousands of frames to get photographed, and they could pay all that money. And back then it was crazy expensive and it was inaccessible. Brands like David Green, they just didn't have access to this technology because the cost was cost prohibitive. So you were a leader and you said, look, I'm going to find someone who could do this at an affordable rate. And you did. How much has the technology evolved since you started all that time ago? Just in general, how have you seen? Because back in the day when you started looking for virtual try-on technology, and again, I know because I was there with you, there wasn't a lot of solutions on the market, but and not even just in virtual try-on, in virtual measuring, virtual selection, and that has grown tremendously. You've been around the world, you go to Mito and Somo, you see all these tech companies. Tell me a little bit about how that landscape has transformed.
I think the quality of the product has gone in leaps and bounds, and one will see later at actually amazing, for example, imagery and what the tech can do. For example, 5 years ago, the quality of your photograph and your input was very critical for the output. And now, with the tech taking care of things, it's not as input critical. So, for example, your photograph doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because tech does the rest. And you'll see the final result is quite remarkable, and the contribution to that final remarkable result is the tech.
And let's talk about the commodity of time. We talk a lot about costs and we talk about money. It's a currency that we all understand because we could see when we have a lot of it and we could see when we don't have a lot of it. But I think one of the most misunderstood commodities that technology can help with is time. Talk about how tech has impacted your time as a solo. I mean, you run a company there that's global, you do all the manufacturing, the distribution, the sales, and it's you at the end of the day. You've got an incredible team, but a lot is demanded of your time. How has the tech helped you to kind of balance that?
I think, look, traveling can be a killer. Going to trade shows and flying and carting booths around the world and stuff like that. And tech completely slices through that, both in terms of time and geographical scope. And, even these days to meet up with people, I mean, I'm a LinkedIn fan, for example, and it's just amazing at how fluid that is. You can put a message out, connect with someone, create a meeting on Zoom. These things can happen within days or hours. So to answer your question, it is incredible how connecting with people is accelerated through tech tools.
That's a really, really great point. If you think about and a lot of people don't understand the process of selling frames, which is very different than selling eyewear. A lot of people know what it's like buying and selling eyewear. They go buy glasses once a year, once every 6 months, and they understand, I go in, I choose a frame, I talk about lenses, I buy them, but not a lot of people understand the concept of buying and selling frames. It's an art. Buyers of eyewear are first of all, they're very difficult to get to. Okay. It is a needle in a haystack. You can find an optical shop, but good luck finding the buyer of frames. It's like playing Guess Who when you were a kid. Does he have glasses? Does he have short hair? Is it a woman or a man? So once you do establish who this human being is in this business, now you have to connect with them. You got to understand their specific modality of doing business. And back in the day, it was very simple. Reps traveled, they built relationships, they walked through the door, but that isn't happening anywhere near like it used to. Trade shows used to be a big solution for that, but we've all been pressured. It's really no fault of the trade shows that we've been pressured with our time and our money to not be able to travel everywhere we'd like to go. You do travel a lot. You have to. There's not a lot of trade shows in South Africa, so you have to go to them. Yeah. Tell me how the trade shows have evolved, and take me all the way back to like maybe 5-10 years pre-COVID, and then to where we are now.
I think there's three things. The first thing is it's a hybrid model now. The future is hybrid. Real people are still irreplaceable, and in-person events are irreplaceable, but virtual adds a vital layer. You can't have one or the other. You need both. And you can't just say, oh, well, I'm just going to have... I mean, finding people, for example, is what our most difficult task, finding good salespeople. And, technology and connectivity is an essential tool to try to find people and doing recruitment. Then, of course, you've got things like pre-show planning, where virtual tools streamline appointment setting and pre-qualification of buyers and maximizing in-person time. Because frankly, time is very expensive at a trade show, and you need to optimize that. Otherwise, you're going to have a very inefficient show. So pre-show and post-show, but predominantly pre-show appointment setting and stuff like that is becoming vital if you want to kind of make your show economically viable. Then, of course, there's the whole long-term impact. And again, I use the thread of sustainability. The sustainability certainly reduces travel and basically has a long-lasting impact on our industry. There are many, many trade shows all over the world, and they're very frequent. It's impossible for any one person to kind of attend all of them, especially, if funds are limited. So it's, again, a hybrid model. Pick and be focused on what you want to do, and plan very, very carefully to basically make it a success.
Oh, I love that you use that word hybrid. It wasn't a word that people even used until like right towards the end of the pandemic. And that's because a lot of buyers in this industry, especially in the optical industry, they really are not from the generation that's digitally native. And what happened during COVID, a lot of people don't talk about this, is the evolution of that digitally native consumer. They became a big player in the marketplace, obviously in our industry, but in many industries. But so did the buyer. The buyer evolved as well. But those that were never digitally native to begin with were forced to become digitally native as a result of using all this technology during the pandemic. And when the pandemic was over, and we're still in that phase now, we all had to make a choice as individuals. How much of this do I want to do virtually? And how much do I want to do physically? And many of us are still in this either or mindset. But people like you and that have adopted hybrid are saying, why do I have to have both? Why do I have to have either? Why can't I have both? Why can't I decide what I want? I tailor my physical interaction with my clients and even with their clients, because again, your virtual technology you've offered to your clients to use to help with their sales. That's giving them hybrid tools. But I'll decide the things that I need to do physically that I would never compromise. And when I can't do the things I would never compromise, I'll find ways to do them virtually that won't compromise what I'm doing. I love that you acknowledge that. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to showcase you today, because there's a lot of people out there who look up to you. You've been in the industry a long time. You're a mainstay at a lot of these major events. People know they can expect to see the David Green booth, and they can expect to hear what you're doing to, step up to the plate and acknowledge what's going on in the world. And on that note, tell us a little bit what's going on with David Green. I've seen some of your newest products. They're gorgeous. Tell us what you're doing and what inspired it.
Oh, we've actually, there's a fantastic thing that we've done. We try to bring in new concepts of nature all the time, and we launched frames with real tea in them. In fact, in South Africa, there's a very well-known tree called rooibos, red bush tea, and that's something that we launched recently, and we've literally launched like 2 weeks ago a product with real stone. We have incredible varieties of stone and nature and a mother of pearl. I'll just show you. This is the mother of pearl that we use, which is all foraged. So bringing out and having surprises of new forms of nature. And that's why nature is so amazing. Actually, there are always surprises. There's always something new. And we are experimenting and trying things all the time. We had an incredible response to our pearl. And the stone is something that's kind of hitting the market over the next couple of months.
Well, that's just great. And, sustainability is not a narrative that is very widely talked about in this industry for obvious reasons. It's very challenging to find a sustainable narrative because, it's just the nature of people change their glasses every year that, typically they're not recyclable. Hopefully you're giving them to the Lions Club. But now it's becoming a very big topic. It's something that we've all realized we really should have been paying attention to, and now we're playing catch up. But you have been talking about this for a very, very, very long time. And a lot of people don't even know that journey. Like, why did you decide that this was going to be your fit in the marketplace? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, the reason why I was one of the pioneers is actually because of my name, to be brutally honest. It's just my name is Green, and people were almost joking with me, saying like Mr. Green. And I started doing this literally more than 10 years ago. And again, it's been a huge involvement. Consumers are increasingly demanding on transparency and ethical ways and ethical production, and becoming more and more demanding. And our journey also has to follow that. So our choice of materials, give an example. I mean, this is actually titanium with cotton and reeds. So it ticks a lot of sustainable boxes. It's also a journey. For example, customers saying to us, well, why do you use plastic dummy lenses? Good point. And, why do you use a plastic wrapper? So this is not a journey that's kind of ended. It's becoming more and more demanding. And each time, if I look at how we've progressed, it is amazing at how we're trying to do more things. Solar power, for example, has become something that's very important in factories. Your power consumption, water recycling. These are things that have only really cropped up in the last maybe 4 years or so. 10 years ago, people weren't really concerned about solar power. So the whole sustainability thread is, something that's an ongoing thing, and it's come a long way.
And, you bring up a great point. The consumer has evolved, and there's a lot of discussions when we talk about the design of Eyewear Artwalk. We're going to shift more towards what you're doing specifically for Eyewear Artwalk in the Metaverse, because, again, you will not be there physically in Denver. Maybe we'll get you in Miami or New York, but we do know that Denver, you will not be there. Do you have a rep in Denver?
No, Charlene, apologies. But I can't be everywhere, and I will certainly be there in the Metaverse, and certainly in spirit. So it's just one of those things. Again, there are numerous events, and it is very challenging to just be everywhere and have a physical presence. I know I should be there, so apologies for not making it. It is a fair distance to travel from Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh, it's only a little jump across the pond there.
Well, and it's okay, because I almost prefer that you were able to do this first show focusing on the virtual. I want to make it very clear to everyone, and it's something that you and I've talked about and will continue to talk about. When our brands are here virtually, they are present. You can meet them. You can sit down with them. You can talk to them. You've had this real-time experience before, David, like you mentioned with the LinkedIn interaction. But in my vision show, who is producing with the tools like the Omniverse City, this experience during Eyewear Artwalk, talk a little bit about what that has been like for you in the past. How have you used this to create a seemingly real experience?
Oh, it was more than seemingly real. It was quite remarkable. I was sitting in Cape Town, South Africa, and I had my avatar walking towards my booth, and someone joined me. And it was a customer from Montreal. So it was quite incredible, because I was chatting to the customer on Montreal in real time, while the two of us in avatar form were walking around my booth. So that's also a great example of hybrid, because we were kind of seeing each other through the hybrid format, but talking to each other in reality. So it's quite a unique form of connecting with somebody, because it's not completely impersonal, because you're talking to them in real time, but it was 25,000 kilometers apart physically.
So what David is talking about is when we launched the Optical Metaverse. Now, you have to remember, this was over a year ago. There was no hype around the Metaverse at all. I'm sure most people in the industry thought I was absolutely out of my mind. Creating.
Oh yes, they definitely thought that, Charlene. I can assure you.
I'm sure you heard things you wouldn't repeat to me, which is fine. Probably like, David, what are you doing with this woman? What are you doing? Why are you doing this, right? But the thing is, back then we had a lot of conversations behind the scenes, and I explained to you that I believe there will be a day when the new modern consumer is going to want to be able to connect like this, and they're not going to want to travel around the world. And if we don't start creating ways to connect now, if we don't learn as an industry how to connect now, then in the future, it's going to be very challenging. I wanted to build that stability. And although our group has been very small throughout the years, most you'll see like 500 to 1,000 people come to a 3-day show. But over the last 4.5 years, we've had over 5,000 people come to my vision show, mostly from the optical and optometry industry. That doesn't mean that, they come every show, but they've had the experience. They're familiar with that user interface. And for you to tell me without any training for me, because I didn't even know that happened, that you were able to use the links that I provided, which I'm sure was a new experience for you, create an avatar on your own, which I'm sure is something you've never done before, and walk around in a space that you've never been before, and then just be randomly joined by a stranger who happens to be a potential client. I can't even imagine what must have been going through your head at that moment.
It was amazing. And, I must just stress as well, it needs to be easy. And I have to compliment you, Charlene. I think you've worked very hard to make it as easy as possible. But yes, your laptop is going to crash and you are going to have some problems. But everybody understands that. And I think there's an immense amount of excitement. And with that does come a degree of tolerance. Hang in there. We're having some fun together. Everybody likes to play. And there's a wonderful fragrance of play to the product that you've produced, So you need to kind of like just, I don't know how you're going to explain that to people, but, guys, let's just have some fun. Let's just play a bit. And maybe the world needs a bit of that. You're going to it now. That's awesome.
So you are 1,000,000% right. I have watched the evolution of patience. We don't talk about that with tech, but you remember, and I remember, there was a time where if you didn't click that button and get right in, you were never going back to that link again. But now we will drive to a Starbucks for better Wi-Fi. Just so we don't miss out on these connective experiences. That has been the biggest catalyst to the success of digital adoption. Before, everybody was impatient with technology, especially before COVID. If you didn't click one link and get right in, that was a death sentence to that software provider. But now you can be in beta for 10 years. People will be incredibly patient because we've learned that if we are patient with technology, it will give us things that we could never even possibly imagine. And that is worth the patience. So the patience has evolved, but we're here to help you. We definitely do have a great support team. And I want to walk you through the David Green experience that we've built for David. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to allow David to kind of explain how these tools can be used so that you can connect with David. Now, you may be an optician or optometrist. You may be another brand in the industry that says, I didn't really take this thing seriously, but I'm seeing now how you've embraced this, David, and I want to embrace this too. Or you may be a consumer that says, I didn't even know sustainable eyewear was a thing. I want it now. All of those cases and many more, you're going to be able to connect with David. And in that connection, you're going to see that we've gone through great lengths to make sure that no matter who you are, you go to the right tool and the right resource. This looks familiar, right, David?
Absolutely. Welcome to the Metaverse.
Yes. And this is our classic My Vision Show platform. Again, just to walk you guys through this, if you haven't been here before, this is going to become the app that will power the Eyewear Artwalk experience, meaning when you come to Eyewear Artwalk in Denver, you're going to be able to use this app to experience it virtually too. A lot of people are saying that I'm going to be able to come the first day, which is a Friday, but I can't come the second day, which is a Saturday. But you may say, I really want to meet with David. I want to sit down with him, and I didn't get to do it on Friday. Or, assuming, let's say David was a brand who was there. Now you can go anytime you want when David will be here. He'll be announcing. There'll be a sign here that says the times that you can meet in his booth. And you'll be able to join him at the table and sit down just like this. And David will be there. Now you'll be able to tell based on this booth. It'll tell you if David is in here or not. And David can even go live in this booth. What are your plans, David, on using this section of your Eyewear Artwalk experience? How would you like your audience to use this to connect to you?
Charlene, this is the more kind of intimate part of the journey. So, you can have one-on-one kind of like private discussions, So I think the journey is to maybe look at the booth like you would do in a show, where you kind of look at the booth and what the company is all about. But when it comes to talking about doing a special deal or how to start or whatever, those things are preferably not done in a public environment. So the booth is a facility to do that with. It's also very nice to, have two-way discussions there. So people are very comfortable. You can bring, if they're you can have like 2-3 people in the booth. If someone arrives, classic scenario, the optician arrives with one of their frontliners or one or two of the frontliners. So it becomes a team-based, but within that customer optician team. It's a great facility to chat and talk about things that also might be specific to them. So these facilities are easy to go to. I will, for example, send out a signal saying, hi, I'm in the booth right now, or I'm talking about blue light protection now, or I'm talking about, production methodology or something specific that could be of interest to a specific group of people. It gives them the facility to say, okay, I'm interested, I'll go to that booth. Without, people that aren't interested don't have to go to the booth. They can stay in the universe.
Perfect. I love that. And talk to us a little bit about the specials and the new products that you're going to be launching at Eyewear Artwalk.
Yes, I have let the cat out the bag a little bit in the sense that we're going to be launching our stone product, which is very new. That's almost kind of not available in the shops yet. It literally was launched last week. Our pearl product, which has the pearl in it as well. Then we've got something which is quite interesting. Right now, there's a boom in travel in the world, and we've developed this product, which is it's an optometric standard product, which is very thin. It's 20 millimeters thin. So it's themed very nicely. It's called the Traveler, and it's a set of readers. We offering it as a supplement in our product range for kind of a quick and easy thing in opticians. It comes in a very nice Perspex dispenser unit. So it's doing very well. Travel is booming, and a lot of opticians are wanting more feet through the door. And this is a way of pulling feet to the door because it's a well-priced product and it's an easy product to sell. But what's important is the fact that it is specifically designed for opticians. So it's not something like when people think reader, they think, you can buy that at the garage around the corner or the low-end pharmacy. This is a proper optical standard product that we're going to be showing at the show in Denver. And always, we have wood product, all forms of nature, which is completely unique. So I think this is the merit of a show like that you're seeing you come into the show and you've seen something you haven't seen before, and you're learning about something that you didn't know about before.
Well, and I think that's a really important point. Two things that you brought up that I want to go back to. The first is I can't even imagine the cost and the effort that goes into producing any frame, let alone a frame that uses foraged mother of pearl from these. Are those shells? Is that what that is?
Yeah, these actually that come from South Africa. It's a natural pearl. Comes in different forms. So these are literally things that I forage. We use leaves. I don't know if you can see it well. So all sorts of nature. So it's a great story, and that's also where we like to set ourselves apart by specializing in the independent practice, because the level of engagement with the customer is more intimate, and you have the chance to tell the story. And people like that. People want to engage with you in a very different way to perhaps how they would engage with someone in a big chain store. There's more time to invest with your patient, and once they like the story, hopefully they will tell their friends. We believe that opticians are very much a community business, and communities work with word of mouth, and communities love a story to tell about the product that they've purchased. And it's so much more than just the product. And a forum like this allows one to communicate so much more than just the product.
Well, and that was the other point I wanted to bring up. We've only really been using My Vision show for the past, couple of years for more of a trade show format. But for those that come to all of our events, you'll know that we've started evolving more to use it for like hands-on learning, workshops. And, it is very feasible that you could meet someone here, have them buy your product, but then have them bring their entire team back. Maybe they've got offices all over the country, potentially all over the world. How cool would it be for a, multi-store chain that had global locations to have all of their managers meet you on one call here, where you could showcase this product? And a lot of people are familiar with Zoom. Zoom has done that. But the thing about this is, if an optician has a question, they can come back to that same place and meet with you again. So that ability to return back to the place where you met someone to kind of get your questions answered or get that support is a huge piece that we're missing. We all know that we can send links to go anywhere, but now what you're managing are zillions of links. If every destination that Eyewear Artwalk and the Omniverse City are providing during this event had a link, you'd have a list of probably several thousand links, and you would never know which one went where. So this idea of adding now 3D objects to provide that navigation. And again, you remember that evolution. You were there. You were with me. When we went from video to video, what we're doing now, to using 3D objects to go to a very specific place, to do a very specific thing. We're going to jump in the Omniverse City in a minute, but talk about that evolution, because you were there.
Absolutely. And I think one must appreciate that if you want to build a community of advocates around sustainable eyewear, this is not going to happen overnight. This whole sustainability thing in itself is a journey. And a lot of people say, oh, sustainable eyewear, now how does this fit in? So it is a journey. And I think one has to have repetitive, consistent messages. This is not going to happen overnight. And I think almost what you have done is very smart by kind of slicing up, East Coast, West Coast, Denver, piece by piece. There's an old African expression that says, if you want to eat an elephant, eat one piece at a time.
It's so true. And we didn't have a choice. I mean, we were introducing technology as it emerged. So if there was a tool out there, I brought it to the table because you guys were using it again and again and again. But once we got to the piece that I'm going to share now, it changed things quite a bit. Going from having the ability to do a video on video call and then going to a screen share, which again, if we remember, there was a time when there wasn't screen sharing. There was just video to video. Then we had screen sharing. Then we had all these we could put little like emojis and little avatars on our face, little filters, backgrounds. All of these things came one at a time, and we introduced them as they became available. And if you remember, every time you came, there was a new toy to play with. But this is different. So when you come to the next level of your virtual experience, you're going to be able to create an avatar. You're going to be able to choose eyewear, including eyewear from some of our brands. We are working on a custom library. Okay. I'm going to get this live. We were in earlier, and I think going back in again lately, I've had some trouble doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and get it live in another browser. But when you go into the Omniverse City, you get to choose where you go. And there's going to be different places to match the different experiences we're going to have in Denver. I'm going to take a moment and get it live. Trevor, are you with us?
I am. Hello.
Awesome. So in a minute, we're going to do a walkthrough of Eyewear Artwalk Denver and an actual virtual tour. But while we're doing that, Trevor, I'm going to mute. And can you share from a marketing perspective how we're going to be intertwining this digital and virtual experience to create that hybrid experience that David was talking about?
Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Trevor Williams, one of the co-founders of Eyewear Artwalk. And my background is specifically in marketing, advertising, and experiential design, meaning creating experiences such as Eyewear Artwalk that connect the physical customer with that virtual element, and being able to draw a definitive line between how brands can use the hybrid experience, such as what David has here, to be able to drive not only ongoing customer purchases, but ongoing customer loyalty as well. And the way that we're really helping to drive that is a few different areas on site in Denver. One, we'll be having a Metaverse village, so to speak, that will showcase all of the brands that are joining Eyewear Artwalk, but are joining us virtually, such as David. So David Green Eyewear would have a virtual presence on site to help facilitate the attendees that are live and engaging with these eyewear brands, to also be able to engage with those that are joining us virtually as well. Next to that, we're really looking at how individuals are changing the way that they're using the digital experience. So I know that there's a lot of keywords here like metaverse and virtual world that kind of throw people a little bit. But at the very core of what this virtual world can do is it's just an ongoing, yes, we can see your screen. It's just an ongoing community engagement opportunity. The metaverse just brings people from all around the world. Like if you're gaming live on Call of Duty and you're playing with your friends in the Netherlands, same thought process. We're just getting together to be able to have that hybrid experience and model that allows the transition between digital and physical and vice versa.
And Trevor, I think it's important to note that you are very entrenched in the emerging tech industry. You're an emerging tech founder. You're one of your partners is very involved in blockchain technologies, which are very akin to what we're talking about here with, decentralization and basically building off the grid. But even still, I think it's important because we all know the optical and optometry industry doesn't have the label of being the most technologically advanced industry when it comes to adopting digital platforms like this. However, we're here. Like we are here in the metaverse, one of the first industries in the metaverse. And a lot of people are not exactly comfortable with that, but they're getting comfortable. But I think it's important to know that we are not behind on this. Everyone is still every industry is still trying to figure out how to leverage this. Can you talk a little bit about some of those challenges and even opportunities that you've seen in other industries?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Fortune 500 companies have no idea what the extent of a virtual world can provide them. I mean, look at companies like Samsung, Roblox, Google, Starbucks. They've all dabbled in what we call, this new internet, Web3 and the metaverse, but nobody really understands and knows the power that can be brought to this. And the reason is, much like in the, early 90s when the internet launched. Everyone thought it was a fad. It was going to go absolutely nowhere. You might have a couple hundred people use it and that's it. And now look at us, 2024, you cannot do any aspect of your life without having the internet present. Same thing when it comes to these virtual worlds. Huge brands are going to tell a story that they understand how to use these. But the fact remains that we just don't know the true limits or the true power of what this Internet 3.0 can bring us. And the only way to find out what it can do is to experience it. See why the customers are coming in hundreds of millions of people in droves to Roblox. It clearly isn't a fad at that point when you have audience adoption. And when there's audience adoption in a new technology, it doesn't matter if you're eyewear industry, the tech industry, it doesn't matter if you're the person who developed the technology. You just have to engage with it and find out how it works for you.
I couldn't agree more. And don't forget, these kids are growing up. If there's billions of them playing on, digital games, believe me, as they grow up, they don't outgrow that. So they're looking now for gamified experiences because that's what they know. That's how they communicated their whole lives. That's how that's how they've achieved things. I have a 9-year-old, so I could speak from experience. When his generation grows up, I mean, we better get our act together because they're going to want first of all, very smart, very intelligent, very knowledgeable consumers. David, talk to us a little bit about what the experience was like building your virtual booth.
Look, I think actually it echoes what Trevor says. At first you sort of think, "Oh, what am I going into?" But it was actually quite easy. We just provided graphics